I'm going to put the BSR foot on. I have the open sole on it. Your BSR comes with 3 different soles, and you remove them simply by squeezing. There's white tabs on either side. So you squeeze and pull and it comes off, and then to put another one on, you would just line it up and push, and the other one would snap in. So with your BSR, besides this open one, which is similar to foot number 24 if you have the presser feet for your machine, it also comes with a closed one, which is similar to foot number 9 on the sewing machine, and then there's also the clear plastic one, which is similar to foot 29. When you put it on, the plug is in the back of the machine, and you want to put it in so that the bottom of the plug is coming out at 6 o'clock. If you put it in for some reason in a different position, I've had people do this and call me and say their BSR is not working. It doesn't get all the way in, because if you look at your machine from the back, there is a place for this to fall into. So I'm going to go in this position behind the machine and plug it in. There's a little diagram on the back of the machine with the BSR foot shown so that you know you're getting it in. And when you pop it in all the way, you're going to get a message on the machine telling you, reminding you to drop the feed dogs, which I will do, and your screen changes to this screen. Now I have the straight stitch plate on, which I highly recommend when you are straight stitch sewing, because it's just going to give you better control over the thread with the smaller opening when the needle passes through the fabric. And I had told my machine that I have the straight stitch plate on, so that you'll see that it's yellow and it says 0 millimeters on the screen. Then below that it has a yellow symbol for the feed dog symbol, which is reminding you that you have dropped the feed dogs. So the other things going on the screen, I'm going to raise this up a little bit, sorry. Oops. The other things going on the screen are you can select a straight stitch or a zigzag. I'm not going to do a zigzag, A, because I want to quilt. Zigzag would be more for thread painting, and B, because I do have the straight stitch plate on, so I'm not going to select that. So you have your straight stitch. You have your stitch length, which is default set at 2, but you might want to make that a little bit bigger if you're working with batting. I'm going to actually pop it up to 3 right now. That's your choice depending on the thickness of the batting that you're using. And then you have your 2 modes, 1 and 2. This might be hard to see in the video, but 1 is white and 2 is grayed out. So that means I'm in mode 1 now. And if I switch to 2, then mode 2 would be white and 1 would be grayed out. So you have 2 modes to work with, possibly a third if you have a 770 plus, the newer machine. Then the other thing is an icon for the speaker if you want it on or off. And the beep is going to go off if you go too fast. So think of it like 50 miles per hour is the speed limit. If you go 55, it's going to beep at you. I recommend in the beginning that you do keep it on, because you kind of want to know what that upper limit is so that you don't go too fast. The BSR is going to optimize the stitch length when you stay in the recommended range. So besides plugging the cable in, you also put the foot on the shank like a standard presser foot and close your lever down. The foot actually sits at a little bit of an angle. What else do I want to tell you before I start? All right, so let me explain the 2 modes. Remember the rhyme, 1 run, 2 you. So in mode 2, it's only going to go if you are moving the fabric. In mode 1, it's going to run as soon as you turn it on. So I will start in mode 2 just to show you. And whenever I free motion quilt, the first thing I always do is I bring my bobbin thread up to the top surface so it doesn't get tangled underneath and cause me problems. So I take a stitch, or I use the needle down and up button on the head frame, and I bring the thread up, and I've got both threads in my hand. I can use the presser foot. The presser foot does not control speed. So I encourage you to try getting used to the start-stop button. Speed is irrelevant. The speed's going to be controlled by how fast you move the fabric. So the start-stop button, in order to activate it, it's not a quick push. You have to hold it in for a second. So I'm going to push, hold in, needle starts going up and down, and you'll see that it's only going if I move. So I'm purposely stopping. So then if I get going, and I'm actually sewing on felt because I got in late because of no power this morning and was kind of rushing to get this done before we start the Zoom. So I don't normally quilt on felt, but I thought it might show it off well. So I'm going to stop, and it pauses. There is a red light. I don't know if you can see it through the camera. There is a red light that's on, which means it's still on. So if I go to move the fabric again, it's going to start sewing. If you pause for more than 7 seconds, it's going to shut off automatically. And that was perfect timing. Barbara knocked on the door, so I had to go answer it. And in that 7 seconds, the red light went off. And in order to activate it again, I'd have to push this button. So mode 2 is good in the beginning, getting a feel for how it's working. Where you may end up liking to work is mode 1, and I'll explain why. When I bring up my bobbin thread to start, first thing I usually do is just do a few stitches very close together, and that's my knot. That may not be your choice if you're doing quilts that are going to get judged in shows, but if you're making quilts to give to the kids, to throw on the couch, you want it knotted, you don't want to be hand knotting, and that's the way to get it done. So in mode 1, when I start, it'll sew in place, and what I'll do is barely move the fabric, and then I'll kick into my design. And even if I pause, the needle will still go up and down, just in place, not a big deal. And then when I get to the end and I want a knot, I'll just barely move the fabric for a few stitches and stop. And I can clip the threads close to the fabric, and I would consider that to be my knot.